Alrighty, hello everybody. So last week at Gurdwara, we discussed the death of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. Today we're going to be switching gears, going back and discussing some things that happened before his death. These events are kind of unrelated on a different topic, but they're still very important. In next week's video, we will be discussing the results of Ranjit Singh's death, the implications and all that kind of stuff. So today's video is going to be with some kind of different events. So yeah. So we got the whole crew here today. Hello, ਸਤਿ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ, ਸਤਿ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ, ਸਤਿ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ, ਸਤਿ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ। ਮੈਂ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਕਿੰਨੀ ਵਾਰੀ ਕਿਹਾ ਵੀ ਕਲਾਸ ਚ ਪਕੌੜੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਖਾਣੇ। ਚਲ ਰੱਖ ਹੁਣ ਖਰਾਬ ਕਰ ਡੱਬੀ। Good, good, good. So, okay, now, so remember class ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਪਕੌੜੇ ਖਾ ਕੇ ਆਇਓ. All right, so let me share my screen. Okay, so these will be the notes, and as usual, homework will be sent out later on. So the first thing we will be discussing today is going to be an event called the Battle of Jamrud, which happened in 1837. So as you guys remember, the city of Jamrud is located in the right around the Khyber Pass, northwest Punjab at this time. Remember in 1834, when Hari Singh Nalwa took over the city of Peshawar, he built Fort Jamrud, of course, in the town of Jamrud, which effectively closed the Khyber Pass, really the only time in history. So now in 1837, we're going to talk about a battle that occurred here. So yeah. In the past couple of weeks, we talked more about things that happened in the southwestern part of Punjab with the Indus Navigation Treaty, the city of or the region of Sindh. But by the time that Punjab has really finished dealing with the Indus Navigation Treaty and the area of Sindh, you have trouble flaring up in the northwest with the Afghans. So write that down. Trouble flares up in Afghanistan. Okay. So what happens is in 1834, Hari Singh Nalwa, as I mentioned, he took over the city of Peshawar. Again, very key event over here. As you know, he built a series of forts over here, including the famous Fort Jamrud. But he closed the Khyber Pass using a lot of his military, setting up a lot of forts and outposts over there, to really control that area. But what happens is, let me write this down. But if you're the Afghans, think about it. You have Hari Singh Nalwa who just took over Peshawar and is now building a whole bunch of military forts over there and bringing his army there. This is going to be something of concern for the Afghans because this is going to make them believe that Hari Singh Nalwa is making preparations for an invasion of Afghanistan. So this is very concerning to them. So as a result, Afghans think Hari Singh Nalwa wants to invade Afghanistan. We know that's not really true. They're not looking to invade Afghanistan right now. Really invaded at all, actually. They just closed up the Khyber Pass. They're kind of done over there, but the Afghans think they do want to invade because of this. So the Afghans obviously don't want to let this happen. So they're gonna make their own preparations in order to kind of defend themselves, possibly even attack Peshawar again in order to retake control of the Khyber Pass. So the Afghans are going to be looking for a good opportunity in order to attack. So what happens is actually an opportunity came to them pretty quickly. So what happens is in 1837, Ranjit Singh's grandson. So we're gonna talk more about Ranjit Singh's family and his family tree, his sons, grandsons, all that stuff next week. I'll show you a family tree. But just for now, just take it for what it is. In 1837, his grandson, who was named No Nihal Singh. That is a name you will have to remember. He's going to come up quite a bit in the next month or so. So his grandson, No Nihal Singh, um, he was with Hari Singh Nalwa in the military over there in Peshawar. Um, he returned to Lahore in this year for his wedding. Sorry. So he went over there for his wedding in 1837. Which means that really all of Punjab is going to be kind of distracted, preoccupied with this, big, wedding, Ranjit Singh's, first grandson, really. And at the time, Hari Singh Nalwa was actually, he was reported to be like sick in bed, ill, nothing really like life-threatening, but, he was reported to kind of, be down in the dumps a little bit, kind of dealing with some kind of illness. So with both of these things going on at the same time, with No Nihal Singh getting married, Hari Singh Nalwa being a little sick, um, let me fix this. So with all this stuff going on, people are kind of made distracted with the wedding. You have Hari Singh Nalwa, who's, not feeling too great. This is going to be a great opportunity for the Afghans to attack. So what happens is, whoops, Afghan army is going to attack. They're going to attack the city of Peshawar and all the forts in the area at the same time in order so they can try to retake that control and take advantage of the situation. Um, the six, pretty much like they have been through most battles that they've fought in, um, they're outnumbered and they don't have as much equipment as the Afghans as far as like, cannons and other resources go. Six are outnumbered. Um, they take heavy losses. A lot of their forts, the walls of their forts got destroyed. A lot of, damage going on, but they were still able to really hold off the Afghans. So even though they're outnumbered, it took a lot of losses. It was very chaotic and clumsy, but they were still able to prevent the Afghans from really establishing control, really taking over the forts. So the Sikh army still was able to stand their ground. It wasn't pretty, but they were still able to hold off the Afghans. As we know, Sikh armies fight very hard. This is really the reason that they were able to really hold them off over here. Um, but something else happened in this battle that would also be very detrimental for the Sikhs. And but what happened was in this battle, Hari Singh Nalwa was severely wounded. He took quite a bit of gunshots and other kind of stuff. Very heavily wounded. Um, and he actually ended up dying in battle. So he was very severely wounded and like very, shortly after, he ended up dying from these wounds that he encountered in this Battle of Jamrud. Um, and actually Hari Singh Nalwa, and when this happened, he demanded to his officers and his army that his death was to be kept a secret until the battle was over. And this isn't very smart thinking by him because Hari Singh Nalwa is obviously the most famous Sikh general who really has lived. One of the greatest generals that the world has ever seen. So if his army finds out that he's dead, it would really kill the morale. It would really kill their confidence. They would probably retreat immediately instead of keep on fighting hard. So that's why his death was kept a secret until the battle was over, so they can still continue to fight the way they have been. Um, so this is kind of, these two things are really what the results of the battle are. The Afghans attack, but they are unsuccessful in taking over any of the cities. So the Sikhs still control the Khyber Pass city of Peshawar, but uh, the bad part is Hari Singh Nalwa ends up dying in battle. So because of this, um, so there's no real clear winner, or depending on what book you read, there's really no clear winner to this. If you read an Afghan book, they'll say, hey, we killed Hari Singh Nalwa. This is a big victory. But if you read some other account, they might say, hey, Afghans failed to take over the cities, so it's an Afghan loss. So there's really no clear winner to this, but there's arguments for either side. So um, can be seen as an Afghan win because of the death of Hari Singh Nalwa, but can also be seen as a victory on the part of the Sikhs because they were able to prevent the Afghans from gaining control of really anything significant, any military fortress, any kinds of, cities, towns, anything. They were able to prevent them from taking anything. So it can be seen as a, victory from either side, but overall, this is what the results of the battle were. So yeah. Questions? लिख लिया सारा कुछ? तुम ही लिख लिया? शाबाश. Okay, so that's the Battle of Jamrud 1837 and the death of Hari Singh Nalwa. So now to kind of shift gears a little bit, based on this. Now, after this happens, so remember, between the Afghans and the Sikhs, not too much has happened in recent years. Well, recent years talking about at that time. Ever since them taking over the Khyber Pass, that was really kind of the biggest significant thing. At this time, the Sikhs are dealing more with, Sindh, the Indus Navigation Treaty, all that kind of stuff. But after this is done, after this battle is done, the British end up actually getting involved into this, because you have all this fighting going on between the Afghans and the people of Punjab. The British are going to be trying to use this as an opportunity to take advantage and kind of capitalize on the situation. So I'll write that down. So the British are going to use this as an opportunity to possibly capitalize on the situation. We have Afghans and the Punjabis fighting, so they're going to try to kind of come in the middle and try to take advantage. So with this, we see a lot of a lot of politics going on here where, you know, well, I'll explain here. So, but first, just to explain a little geography, um, that the British have control of really all of India except for Punjab at this point. So then you have, let's say, British territory, then you have Punjab, then to the west of Punjab, you have Afghanistan. Now to the west of Afghanistan is Persia. So they're to the western side of Afghanistan. And as of course, the Russians are up in the north and you know. So at this point, at this time, the Russians actually have made like an alliance or a friendship with the Persians, who are again located west of Afghanistan. They have made an alliance with the Persians and looking to do the same with the Afghans here. So remember, the British are not the only country in the world who would like to have control over areas around India. So, India, Persia, Afghanistan, anything around there. So there's other East Indian companies other than the British East Indian Company. There's, the Portuguese East Indian Company, the French East Indian Company, the Dutch East Indian Company. Um, and then of course, the Russians would also like kind of like to have their hand in there, to make an alliance with anybody, come in for trade, whatever it is. So obviously, from the perspective of the British, they do not want any other outside country to come in and compete with them for control of Punjab or any other land around there. So so this is a very scary thing for the British, that they just made an alliance with the Persians and they're sending their diplomats into the Afghan government to try to do the same thing over there. So the British were like, oh no, we got to stop this. So the British send, our old friend Alexander Burns to Afghanistan, I'm gonna abbreviate, um, to try and discourage discourage the Afghans. They want to discourage the Afghans from making an alliance with the Russians. Making So, in a nutshell, the British do not want the Afghans and Russians to make an alliance, because now you would have an outside competing power making an alliance with Afghanistan, which again borders Punjab, where the British are looking to take over. So this is what the British do in response to that. Um, the Afghans, they agree to this, but under a certain condition. So the Afghans say, yeah, we won't make an alliance with the Russians, but there was one big condition, that the the British would help the Afghans take back Peshawar. So this is a very big condition over here. Um, Now, based on what we know about British behavior and how they've been dealing with Ranjit Singh and also the Afghans, the you should be able to guess, are the British going to decline this offer, or are they going to accept this offer? So think about it. Um, let's look at both sides. If they take this offer from the Afghans, then they would ensure that the Russians are not going to make an alliance with the Afghans. However, this would be directly creating an enemy with Maharaja Ranjit Singh, because that would be taking Peshawar from them and giving it to the Afghans. So if they decline this, then they would maintain friendship with Ranjit Singh. Um, and that's actually what happened. So the British, they declined this offer in order to maintain that, quotes, friendship with Ranjit Singh. Because remember, as we've been talking about, this is what the British tactics are going to be, to maintain that kind of friendship and kind of strangle the politics around it, so that you force the Punjabi government, Ranjit Singh, to kind of accept a lot of their terms based on friendship. I mean, remember, this is kind of how they got control of Sindh, really through that, friendship, clause, which goes back to really the Sutlej Treaty. Like, hey, if you're my friend, you allow me to do this, and then they just keep bending the rules like that. So the British do not want to create any direct enemy with Punjab, because then it's going to be so much more difficult for them to take control of it. If they'd rather maintain a friendship and let it fall apart from the inside, that's in their interest, much better. So they declined this offer from the Afghans in order to maintain a friendship with Maharaja Ranjit Singh. So yeah, all right. So remember, the reason that the British are even getting involved in any of this, so they want to prevent an Afghan-Russian alliance, because um, they do not They do not want other countries, the French, the Russians, the Portuguese, whatever. Doesn't matter who it is. They don't want anybody to be in competition with them for control of India, control of Punjab. So if the Russians form an alliance with the Afghans, this would really be against their interests. So they do not want any other countries competing with them. This is why they get involved in this in the first place. So now, after this, what happens here is all righty. I'll write it down, then explain. The Punjabi government, so like Ranjit Singh and his government, and the British, they actually decide to kind of cooperate. And this is going to seem very strange. There's a lot of politics going on here, but I'll explain it. Try to explain it as simple as I can. So, what happens next over here? After the British declined that Afghan offer, um, the Punjabi government, Ranjit Singh, and the British, they decide to cooperate. And they want to remove the Barakzais from power. Remember, these are just the people, the family, the tribe that control Afghanistan right now. If you remember, before they took power, the people who control Afghanistan were Ahmed Shah Abdali's family. I'm sure you guys remember guys like Shah Shuja, Shah Zaman, all those guys. Um, they're part of Ahmed Shah Abdali's family, but they were overthrown a while ago, and the Barakzais took power really after Ranjit Singh got the Kohinoor Diamond, and Shah Shuja got kind of thrown out of there. And the Barakzais controlled Afghanistan really from the 1820s all the way to really 1978, actually. Other than a few little things that we'll talk about, but they're the ones currently in power right now, over there. So the Punjabi government, the British, they decide to cooperate and remove the Barakzis from power, um, and place Shah Shuja on the throne. Remember, Shah Shuja was one of Ahmed Shah Abdali's grandsons, um, who right now is actually living in British territory, really after he got kicked off the throne of Afghanistan, and after Ranjit Singh saved him from getting killed by the Barakzis in exchange for the Kohinoor Diamond. This is stuff we talked about earlier in the year. So they decide that this is what they want to do. Um, so yeah, not everybody in Punjab agreed with this. Some did not like the idea of cooperating with the British and Shah Shuja, because they're both, Punjabi people don't realize, or like they don't see them as people to be trusted at this time. After what the thing that Shah Shuja did, after what the British are doing now, a lot of people in Punjab do not support this, but enough people did support it that the Sikh army ended up going forward with this and agreeing to this. Now you might think, well, why? Um, well, the Sikhs and Afghanistan just kind of fought a big battle, the Battle of Jamrud. Um, and Shah Shuja is kind of really under the control of the Sikhs and the British right now. He's really kind of their puppet, Whatever he does is going to be controlled by the British or the Sikhs. So they decide to do this, cooperate. Um, because if you put Shah Shuja in power in Afghanistan, that really just means the Sikhs and the British control Afghanistan because, um, really because, Shah Shuja's like your puppet, like, he's, under your control, really listening to what you say. So effectively, that would, take out the possibility of a Russian alliance. And it would also eliminate the Afghans from really attacking, Peshawar, Jamrud, all that stuff again. So they decide to do this because if Shuja is the one in control, um, they have pretty much like direct control, direct influence over what happens in Afghanistan. So this is a, this is the motives of why they decided to cooperate and do this. So yeah, if they put Shuja in control, he'll pretty much be their puppet, and you'll have Sikh and British control of Afghanistan. So what follows is this agreement of cooperation, which was called the Tripartite Treaty of 1838. So this was signed by Ranjit Singh and the British Governor General. Um, the British Governor General is just like the leading British official in India. Lord Auckland is the guy right now. So the British, the Sikhs and Shah Shuja, they signed this treaty where the terms are. So these are the terms of this agreement, this treaty right here. So terms of the treaty. Let me write that first. Terms of the treaty were where to go? Oh, there. So it confirmed Sikh control of major cities like Peshawar, Kashmir, Multan, really anything that the Sikhs got control of from the Afghans and got to keep. So Khyber Pass, Peshawar is included in this. So it really confirmed it that, hey, this is Sikh territory. Shuja will be placed on the Afghan throne with the help with the Sikhs and British army. So the Sikh and British armies will really go into Afghanistan with their armies, overthrow the bureaucracies from their government, and place Shuja on their throne as their puppet. So over here, and then next after that, um, so anything dealing with foreign relations with the Afghans, anything done by anything relating to Afghanistan being involved in anything is going to be controlled by the Sikhs and the British. Um, and another way you can put this is that even though Shah Shuja will be the emperor of Afghanistan, he has to listen to everything that the Sikhs and the British say. Listen to their commands on policy and what to do. And Shah Shuja always had to be accompanied by either a Sikh or British official when attending meetings or doing things. So that's the next term of the treaty. And there's one more treaty actually. So Ranjit Singh is going to get control of some of the land on the right bank of the Indus River. So remember, after the Indus Navigation Treaty, the British controlled all the land around the Indus River. And because that Indus Navigation Treaty was signed by the people of Sindh, Ranjit Singh, and the British, um, the British got control of all the rivers of Punjab, really. Like, well, not control of them, they had the right to travel on them for navigation, per se. We know that's not why they wanted, but that's what they said. Um, so this treaty, just to, I guess, kind of make Ranjit Singh happy, they gave some of the land on the right side of the Sutlej, not the Sutlej, the Indus River, back to him. It's kind of, okay. Um, another thing actually to point out. So these were the terms of the treaty. This was that agreement. This was their cooperation. But one thing I want to mention is that there was one term of the treaty that was brought up during their negotiations um, that was actually rejected and not put in the treaty. And this, point was one. So one term that the British wanted that a British resident or like a political official should be placed in Lahore at all times, to have kind of influence over decisions. This was rejected, not put into the treaty, but this clearly shows British intentions of what they want to do. They want to infiltrate, and interfere in the politics of, other regions, like Punjab or Afghanistan. Um, the Sikhs and British are doing it in Afghanistan right now. They're interfering in their like inside business, trying to take control of it. The British want to do that to Punjab as well. So this shows their intentions, but this point was rejected. And these are the official terms of that treaty, the Tripartite Treaty of 1838. So after this agreement, they actually have to go forward with it and, take the military and put Shuja on the throne, which leads to the first Anglo-Afghan War. Anglo means British anytime you see that. So this is what they called it. Okay. So part of the treaty, the Baraxis had to be overthrown and Shuja should be placed on the throne. And remember, the whole reason the British are even doing this in the first place is so they can block anybody from coming into India from the west side, mainly the Russians in this case, because they want to protect their own interests without any competition. All right. So, overthrow. The second British armies, they marched into Afghanistan with their armies and they successfully overthrow the Barackzais and place Shuja on their throne over there. So it seems like, hey, no big deal. They were able to go forward with this treaty. But it really wasn't, that simple. What happened after this is very interesting, actually. So remember, Shah Shuja, he was not very well liked in Afghanistan. He was not exactly the nicest guy. He referred to his own people as like dogs who needed to be civilized. He was known for having like a quick temper and um, killing really anybody who opposed him. So he's not very well liked in Afghanistan. So as a result, even though it's been a while, the people of Afghanistan remembered. Um, not accepted, and he was not accepted over there. He was viewed as like a traitor, um, who despises, kills his own people. Not a nice guy. So as a result, these Afghan people, they hate this guy a lot. Um, so violent rebellion comes up in the Afghan people. So the Afghan people, rebel like, hey, we do not want this guy on the throne. He should not have control of Afghanistan. So violent rebellion breaks out in response to this. Um, and the Afghan people, they're very tough. They have been some of the most formidable enemies of really, the Sikhs, the British, and even modern militaries having trouble, dealing with Afghanistan. So, it's a very difficult place to fight in, very difficult, very tough enemies to fight. So these, Afghan people, they broke out in such violent rebellion. They opposed this, so strongly, that, over the course of a couple of years, that in 1841, so just a couple of years, 3 years after this treaty was signed, and the Sikhs and British did this, the British were forced to they were forced to sign an agreement, really kind of, losing in a sense. So I say the British, not the Sikhs. The reason is because 1841, and we'll talk about this next week. 1841, the people of Punjab are in absolute chaos dealing with what's happening after Ranjit Singh's death. So it's really the British that are taking most of the load on this. They're the ones who really want to interfere in Afghanistan. Remember, they have the most, motives in this. They're the ones that really want to control Afghanistan, or, at least prevent outsiders from coming into it. So like infiltrate and, interfere in their affairs over there. So that's why it's really the British being involved in this, for the most part. Um, so yeah, what happens after this? The British, they're forced to sign an agreement because they can't deal with this rebellion. They're losing. Um, they're forced to sign an agreement with the Afghans uh, to withdraw all their soldiers, all their military forces, because they're really losing to this rebellion that bad. Um, and the Afghans, force them out. They're forced to sign this treaty or this agreement to really for the British to withdraw. And to take Shah Shuja with you. So remove Shuja from the throne. So after, so to kind of backtrack and summarize what we've done, um, second British, mostly British armies placed Shuja on the throne in Afghanistan, but the Afghan people rebelled in response to that, and British were forced to sign an agreement to withdraw and take Shuja with them. But it didn't stop there. The Afghans are very tough people. As the British forces are moving out, they're attacked, as they're retreating, as they're going back, to their land. They're all attacked and looted. I think just in there, like 16,000 British soldiers were killed and all their like supplies were taken. So the Afghans, are not going to take things like this lightly. So really proves how, tough of an enemy they are. And the British kind of found out this the hard way. So Lord Auckland, the British Governor General, who was really responsible for getting the British involved in all this in the first place, he was criticized for this. Size for this really a humiliating loss. He was heavily criticized for this humiliating loss, and he was replaced by a new governor general named Lord Ellenborough. So Lord Auckland tried to get involved in all this, and really tried to like get involved in Afghanistan to kind of control it in a way or make it fall apart from the inside, and really just to block any outsiders from it, and maybe even control it themselves. But they found out the hard way why it's so hard to fight against the Afghanis, and how really it was only Ranjit Singh and Hari Singh Nalwa able to really put a stop to it with controlling the Khyber Pass. But so after this loss, after a few years, this 3-year span of 1838 to 1841 is really the only time the Barakzis were kind of out of power from, because they controlled Afghanistan from the 1820s to 1978. The only time where there was kind of interrupted, but again, very violently, very quickly went, back to the way it was. So after this, the British adopt a new foreign policy for Afghanistan only. Adopt a policy of it was called non-interference. Come on. Okay. Non-interference, meaning they're not going to interfere in Afghanistan anymore. They learned this the hard way. Um, so so the Afghans and British made an agreement that, hey, we're not going to interfere in each other's like internal affairs, and we'll remain friends. So, surprise, surprise, that friendship, lasts about 30 years. And later on in the 1800s, the British, decide to go back on this and invade Afghanistan. But way too much for today. We're not going to talk about that. But the point is, this first Anglo-Afghan war, the whole reason that even happened in the first place is because the British were afraid of the Russians having an alliance with the Afghanis. They don't want any outside competition, so the British do what they typically do, and that's try to interfere in the internal affairs of the country they want to try and control. They signed this Tripartite Treaty, 1838, in order to try to put Shuja on the throne over there. Worked for a couple years, but ended in disaster. So they decided not to interfere with Afghanistan anymore. However, it is important to know that the British are, of course, going to be interfering in the politics of Punjab, which we will be discussing in the next couple months. So these are their tactics, how they like to really just divide and conquer. So, yeah. So that'll pretty much be it for today. But just to summarize real quick, talked about Battle of Jamrud, death of Hari Singh Nalwa, why the British decided to get involved in all this in the first place with the Afghans, the Tripartite Treaty, and the first Anglo-Afghan War. So I know these topics were kind of all over the place, but next week we're going to be kind of switching gears back to Ranjit Singh and his death, and the implications of that. But I had to kind of plug this in somewhere. So yeah, any questions, guys? No. Alrighty. So homework will be questions. They will be posted on the group chat as usual. So please do those and send them to me. So yeah, and stay tuned for next week's video, and be sure to like and subscribe.